Hi, my name is Alvin. I am a member of Himpunan Ahli Value Engineering Indonesia or HVI. I also work as value engineer in SMEC International, serving Directoral General of Highway as the main client by providing value engineering consultancy service in projects and assisting training. Today, I will tell you about innovations in decision making using value methodology based on my projects in Indonesia and how to sustain the value methodology practice in an organization. You can visit this presentation material in this link. This is the presentation content. I break down my presentation into three major points. First, why you need VE. In this part, I will also explain what is value engineering, value methodology, and value management, and value analysis, because those terminologies are used so interchangeably. Second, I will explain how VE enhances decision-making process. I will use a proceeding paper from the American Society of Value Engineers or SAVE International, a paper written by Ms. Xiao Yi and Dr. Mei Yung, where they explain how value management practice was conducted throughout the Belt and Road region. I will also explain two case studies from Indonesia, where we use VE as a tool to enhance decision-making process. The third part, I will explain how to sustain value methodology in an organization or maybe even in a country. In this part, I will also explain the history of value engineering in Indonesia using a tool named Gartner Hype Cycle and how a mature VE or VM practices looks like. Okay, in this part, I will explain what is value management, value engineering, and value analysis. If you see this picture, there's a big arrow going to the top, signaling the abstraction level. To make it practical, let me give you a context. For example, I am working as a value engineer in the Directoral General of Highways, a place where we design and build roads and bridges, including maintenance. In this case, value analysis as the lower abstraction level concern about piers, beam, or slab. Meanwhile, value engineering as the medium abstraction level concern more about bridges, which also serve as a connections between the lower and the higher abstraction levels. Value management, in the other hand, concern about the road trace combining road and bridges that usually we found on programming or strategical level, where they capture the needs of the end users. Despite the abstraction level, uniquely, all of it can be optimized using the same approach. Some people call it value methodology. So optimizing bridge, pier, road network can be done with the same systematic approach. Okay, now that you know that VE can be implemented in all abstraction level, why do you need VE? In value engineering, we believe that value or how valuable something is can be determined by using these expressions. The satisfactory of needs divided by the resource sacrificed, or cost, or the performance of certain functions divided by cost. Based on my experience, we do VE for reducing costs, increasing output or outcome, or simply increase benefit and reduce the risk. Maybe some of you think, we already have a process that gives that kind of output, so why should we do VE? Well, it's because we do it systematically and we apply functions thinking. Now, why do you need those two things? To make it simple, function thinking can improve your design further by defining the problem in a functions and performance manner, which give you a lot of space for making solutions. Also, by doing it systematically, producing the output can be done in 2 days. So, how VE enhance decision making? We use function thinking and systematic process. Now I will explain how a VE study looks like. I use these two pictures from Value.fm, a value engineering consultancy company. In general, the VE study looks like a pressure cooker. Inside the pressure cooker, there's a facilitators or the VE expert who keep the VE study process running. There's also a multidisciplinary team and subject matter expert, since we are going to optimize a design. Usually we invite stakeholders as the multidisciplinary team too. In optimizing a design, we need a direction. Such direction can be generated from goals. And while we are optimizing the design, value philosophy is used as a ground rule of optimizations. All of the things that I mentioned happen in a structured process called a job plan. In order to do all of this, the whole VE team must spend their energy, time, sacrificing 2 days of work to commit to do the VE study. This is what a structured VE study looks like. There's a pre-workshop stage, which is preparation, and there's a workshop stage from information to recommendations. In the preparation phase, we identify the stakeholders, setting goals, theme, and scope. Then we have a workshop from information phase, where VE team gathered, including stakeholders, to share information about the project from each perspective. After it, the VE team will do function analysis, led by facilitators. The goal of the activity is to find the right problem by using several value engineering tools, such as function analysis system technique or FAST and Pareto principle. After we define and focus on the right problem, we solve it in the creativity phase, where the facilitator used several creativity techniques to trigger ideas. This is a unique phase because every idea, either bad or good, must be written by the VE team, so there's no judgment on the quality of the idea. Since we don't judge the quality of the idea in the creation phase, we evaluate the ideas on the next phase, which is the idea selections. The selected ideas are then combined and categorized in the development phase, where the VE team will be separated into some mini-team and make alternatives. The alternative generated by the mini VE team then evaluated in the evaluation and presentation phase to find out what alternative best at doing what. Finally, the facilitators write the VE report containing conclusion and recommendations. The VE team and the facilitators did not take any decision. They just simply recommend several alternatives with their benefit and cost to the directors and let the directors select it. Now I'm going to explain the value management practice in Hong Kong or HK, Malaysia or MA, United States or US, and Sri Lanka or SL. They are indicated with 2 letters in these tables. VM practice are relatively mature in Hong Kong, Malaysia, and United States, while in Sri Lanka, VM was under development, or I think we can say that they are still growing. In other words, VM or VE studies should be at least practiced like HK, MA, or US. In all of the mentioned countries except Sri Lanka, the objective of the VE study are identified based on the client's needs. Meanwhile, in Sri Lanka, the VE study was simply to reduce cost. Also, in all of the mentioned countries except Sri Lanka, the VM and VE process follow the systematic approach. They separated its phases, while in Sri Lanka, they mixed the VM process together. In Malaysia, Hong Kong, US, they used the function thinking by making the function analysis system technique or FAST diagram. Meanwhile, in Sri Lanka, they just analyzed information and most likely not using the function thinking. In Malaysia, Hong Kong, and US, they also not allowed judgment of idea during creativity. Meanwhile, in Sri Lanka, they delete the ideas when someone disagree with it. Judging idea during creativity is strictly prohibited in value methodology, since it limits the idea generation process. In Malaysia, Hong Kong, and US, evaluation of ideas are conducted using some tools, for example, using choosing by advantages, scoring, evaluation metrics, and maybe even multi-criteria analysis. While in Sri Lanka, participants were convinced by the other team members for the best idea. This is also a practice that we would like to prevent. The VE study process must be transparent. The tool that we use during evaluations create transparency, since every ideas are judged based on sound reasoning. And if there's any dispute arise, it is the task of the facilitators to document it and carry on to the next process, so the dispute will not create a bottleneck. This is one of the case study that I will talk about. What if the VE study finished when we are in the preparation phase? This is the picture of our projects. The existing roundabout is not safe and traffic are congested in the heavy hour. The initial solution is a flyover constructed across the railroad. This is our value profile. The goal of this project is to reduce traffic jam, prevent train collisions, and reduce life cycle costs. After we set our goals, we met the stakeholders from the Railway Authority, namely KAI or KAI. Since there's lack of information regarding the railroad activities, the Railway Authority told us that they want to raise the railroad. Our project team and our client was pretty shocked on that news. Then the project managers bring this matter to the directors, and the directors decided to let the Railway Authority raise the railroad while we convey our project goals to the Railway Authority. Long story short, the Railway Authority raised the railroad while also designing the traffic below the railway. What is the impact of this study? Well, since there's no flyover construction, therefore we can say that our client or DGH saved 20 million USD while reducing the traffic jam. Now, if you ask me why this improvement happened, it can happen because of the miscommunications which born out of the assumption and habit. In value engineering study, we challenge assumptions and habit. Now, this is the next example. What if we do all of the phase of the VE study? So this is our project. Our task is to make a 300-meter bridge from A to B with 120 meter deep valley. There is an existing road from A to B, but the client assumed that it was dangerous since there's a letter S and also a bad horizontal and vertical alignment, or 14 dangerous bends. After we got the information, we do a function analysis. This is a simplified functions diagram which explains that we construct the bridge to accommodate long vehicle, reduce travel time, and prevent accident. We accommodate long vehicle and reduce travel time to develop the economy of the isolated area. As value engineers, we always check our fact. Is the bridge preventing accident? We found out that the existing road is not that dangerous. It is safe enough. Only one accident happened in the last 4 years. How about the travel time? The client wants to reduce 20% of the travel time, but the existing travel time is pretty short, which is just 12 minutes, and the road is not that congested. The VCR was only 27%, or the road capacity are still okay. The existing road link can facilitate 9-meter truck, while the client hoped that the bridge or the solution would facilitate 12-meter truck. What does this mean? If we zoom out of our project scope, our project is a link from X to Z. Our project, the number 4, is just a small portion that connects a straight line from X to Z. So 12-meter truck can get stuck on the road, or even before entering our bridge. Now a question, do we still need a bridge from A to B? Let's go back to our functions diagram model. Often we are jumping to conclusions. Let's think, in this project, how can a bridge accommodate long vehicle, reducing travel time and preventing accident? The answer is by shortening the road and taking out dangerous bends. So imagine if we fix the dangerous bends without constructing the bridge, of course the benefit would be reduced, but it is enough. I mean, the existing condition is not bad. We just assume it is to be bad because it looked dangerous. We propose the client 2 solutions. First option is only fixing the bends, and the second option is to construct the bridge. The directors in the DGS argues, but in the end, the directors choose to fix the bends, therefore leaving us with a potential of cost reduction of 275 billion rupiah. Based on the information that I found online, it is believed that VE was introduced in Indonesia around 1970s or the 1980s. In 1974, there is a Cawang to Tanjung Priok flyover project, where one engineer used value engineering in this project, using analogies to make a Sosro Bahu construction method, where he rotated the pier head using some kind of hydraulic jack mechanism. Around 2006, we established Indonesia's Value Engineering Society, namely HVI, or Himpunan Ahli Value Engineering Indonesia. In 2007, there's a regulation from Ministry of Public Work and Housing stating that every public building construction must use VE in the design stage. Up to this day, the practice of the VE is pretty informal, no facilitators or job plan, and no function analysis, just like what Sri Lanka did. These situations create a very basic of value methodology being practiced, hence lowering the demands for a good quality of value engineering study or value engineers. In 2018, there is an ESP program in Ministry of Public Work and Housing. In this program, we produce a VE guidelines, which demand certain quality of value engineering study being performed and also setting up the level of value engineers needed according to the construction cost threshold. We also introduce value management to DGH, showcasing how it is implemented in the project. Internal facilitators were also produced. This is where the client organization make their own value engineers from the organizations. In order to ensure the quality of the value engineers, we hire international value engineers to coach them. You can find more information in this guideline. How to click that link? Well, this is the instruction. Okay, the last slide. Now, since Indonesia have the guideline for value engineering, can we predict the progress or acceptability of VE? The answers? Maybe we can predict it using a tool called Gartner Hype Cycle. According to Gartner Hype Cycle, every innovation, no matter it is technology or methodology, it will endure a graph like that one. Horizontal axis explain time, usually it is years, meanwhile the vertical axis explain expectations. When a new innovation emerge, that innovations including the market usually promise something big. For example, we can reduce the cost for 50% or 80%. This explains the high expectations on the innovation. On the early stage, since the technology or methodology is not yet that mature and best practice haven't been developed in that country, the thing that we promised before did not fulfilled, hence creating a slight downward into the expectations. Maybe this is why an innovation dies. After the expectations go down, the innovations develop throughout the years and people start building realistic expectations toward that innovations. This is where the best practice being developed. Based on my guesstimations, I think value engineering practice in US and Europe are pretty matured. So they are there in the graph. One of my main parameters in determining if a VE culture is mature or not in a certain country are whether or not the public sectors open a job vacancy for value engineers. In LinkedIn, for example, if you search for value engineers worldwide, you will find job vacancies from Samsung, McKinsey, and other remarkable companies in US and Europe, but no value engineering job vacancy in Indonesia. Now, value engineering has been in Indonesia for around 40 years. But Indonesia only have one advanced internationally recognized value engineers. But now he is 70 or 80 years old. I believe that value engineering in Indonesia is still in the early stage where we haven't developed the best practice. I mean, HVE is not really active right now since value engineers were rarely requested by the governmental sector, creating a dead spiral of low quality and quantity of value engineers and low demand of value engineers. But since we have a value engineering guidelines, we hope that the governmental sector will use it, which will create a demand of a good quality of value engineering studies. Well, based on this hype cycle, what can we do to sustain the VE as innovation? We need support from the government because they are the early adopters and the biggest spender on VE. Imagine if VE is a startup company. You need a venture capital to burn money, and that venture capital is the government, which will result in a good supply of the high-quality value engineers and also value engineering practices. We also need support from the upper management level. Don't forget that in order to do VE study, we need to give time and energy, which means to leave some of our day-to-day works and do the VE study. We must also tolerate risk and failure and learn from it. This is the plan do check act way. Because based on this Gartner hype cycle, we know that the promise won't be delivered that easy. After it, we need to develop a community of practice and organizations or place where VE practitioners can share their best practice in that region. We also need to ensure the quality of the VE practice with the VE guideline and regulations. Remember, in 2007 there is a regulations to do VE study, but it was so basic that it creates no demand for a good quality of VE engineers. The last one, I believe this is very important. That is why I want to save it for last. If you see in that hype cycle graph, when the expectations are inflated, there is a risk that innovation dies when the result does not meet the expectations. Therefore, I believe the key is also managing expectations toward VE. So try not to promise what you can't deliver yet. When you do VE, most likely you will expand your scope of study or discussions, since you are asking a lot of wise questions and challenging assumptions or decisions. You, as the client and the value engineers, must find a balance between the expectations and the VE study, and the space available to maneuver the VE study. For example, can we check or confirm the existing decisions or assumptions? This is a very important question, because by asking wise and challenging those things, you will have more space to maneuver your VE study and focus on the right thing, and therefore potentially create several alternative designs or implementing several new ideas. Okay, that is the presentations from me. I hope that these presentations help you to promote and sustain VE practice in your country and also enhance your decision making. Thank you for your attention.